choose from over 60 Ranger XLTs. Charles Gabus said price them as low as $74.74. Stereo cassette, chrome bumper, sliding rear window, and much more. Only $74.74. All must go. Save thousands today at Charles Gabus Ford, the big store.
Get ready for Ice Capades, presented by Legs Sheer Energy. World-class figure skating is coming to Vets Auditorium Wednesday, November 27th through Sunday, the 1st of December. Enter Hanna-Barbera's World of Fun and Excitement on Ice with a Heritage Cablevision Ice Hot $2 off ticket offer. It's a hot deal for young people and seniors.
It's hot.
See Ice Capades, presented by Legs Sheer Energy, coming to Vets Auditorium. Don't miss this family favorite or your Ice Hot ticket offer from Heritage Cablevision.
This is CNN.
Germany's Nazi past. Are the flames of racial hatred inflicted on a continent still burning?
Germany's neo-Nazi present. The chilling chants of yesterday echo again today.
And more evidence Baghdad is stepping up its campaign against the Kurds, a torture chamber in Iraq. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Frank Sesno in Washington.
And I'm Catherine Crier in Atlanta. In Yugoslavia, columns of federal troops are on the march, and thousands of war-weary refugees are on the move. After capturing the key Croatian city of Vukovar, federal troops are reportedly massing around Osijek. Refugees are streaming out of the Zadar area after heavy fighting there. We begin our coverage with Paul Davies, who is outside Dubrovnik.
It was a desperate gamble driving through the no-man's land that separates the two forces, but the French minister had decided this was the only way to save hundreds of trapped women and children. We passed through the Federal Army lines just half a mile outside Dubrovnik. We'd been told the army was closing in, but it still came as a shock to discover just how many federal soldiers are now just a few minutes' drive from Dubrovnik. For those of us who've spent weeks on the wrong end of the army's bombardment of the city, it was a strange experience meeting the men responsible. As Minister Kushner tried to negotiate passage through to the occupied villages, the soldiers told us they were all from Montenegro. One even apologized for destroying Croatian homes.
They opened fire from this place.
A group of senior officers of the Serbian-led army arrived to announce that the humanitarian mission would be allowed to proceed to the newly captured village. Traveling under army escort, we were led to the village of Mokoshica, just as troops were taking control of the streets. These soldiers were clearly edgy after a night-long battle to capture the village. The French minister explained to Red Cross officials that the soldiers had promised there would be no more shooting. And slowly, the people began to emerge from the wreckage of their homes. First in ones and twos, then in larger groups. These people had spent days hiding in cellars. There were claims that hundreds more were still too frightened to come out.
I think 1,500 people, I think, about 2,000.
The minister attempted to negotiate the evacuation of the civilian population in an underground shelter that had for weeks been home for hundreds of families. They lived down here while their homes were destroyed. Now, with the Croatians defeated, they fear they've lost everything. On the streets, the army sent in to crush the breakaway republic. Many of the residents appeared in a state of shock. But as ever, there were contradictory images and statements. This man claimed the village had in fact been liberated.
We are free. We can say that we are free now.
You say that. Okay, you say that. Not me. Not me.
In front of television cameras, a senior federal officer attempted to comfort a distraught boy. But there were those, albeit a minority, who appeared genuinely pleased to see the army's arrival. The French minister emerged from his talks with two young boys. Along with a pregnant woman, they could leave immediately, with a mass evacuation agreed for later in the week. For weeks, this village has been a battlefield. Now it has finally fallen to federal forces. Its women and children are being given the opportunity to leave. But first they must make the agonizing decision to leave their menfolk and their homes behind. Minister Kushner is also hoping the Federal Army will agree to pull out of the village altogether, leaving it as a neutral zone.
The beginning of a little island of peace, here in the middle of hell. So let's say that this is the beginning of maybe something. I don't know.
But gunfire just a few yards up the road, a reminder of the difficulty that faces any peace initiative here. Those who are being ferried to safety, once again forced to run for their lives as bullets whistle down the street. Paul Davis, ITN, Dubrovnik.
As soon as Vukovar fell to Serbian hands, the accusation of war atrocities by both sides began. To be sure, both sides have filled their newspapers and TV screens with pictures of civilian dead since the beginning of this conflict. But Vukovar is a special case. With as many as 15,000 civilians trapped under the city during the siege, many outside observers believed that a massacre by either side was likely. Some international officials say privately that it was the arrival of scores of foreign journalists on the scene that forced the Federal Army to rein in Serbian irregulars and prevent reprisals. When Vukovar finally fell, the Red Cross was in the ironic position of being grateful that thousands of civilians were only suffering. At least they weren't dead.
I think they turned in a way better than expected regarding the fate of the civilian population. I think the fact that they did not stay too long after the fall of Vukovar was in a way positive for them.
Many civilians now lay dead in the streets and cellars of Vukovar. But journalists and international observers say it is too early to tell if the mass killings alleged by each side did occur. As the city fell, journalists witnessed looting and summary executions. Correspondents who did not want to be identified witnessed 2 killings. They say they saw 2 unarmed men pulled from a line of refugees and executed on the spot. The correspondents say their bodies were left beside 5 others who lay with their shopping bags still in their hands. The Federal Army promised to show pictures of 41 children who allegedly had their throats cut in a kindergarten, but the allegations have fizzled. The Army now says it can't comment, and Reuters, the news agency that first reported the allegations, has withdrawn the report. While European Commission and Red Cross officials can't say for certain what happened in Vukovar, they believe that both sides have committed atrocities in this conflict.
I think this war has been and is a very rough one, and in all regions, I mean, people are in need to respect much more international law and to abide by Geneva Conventions and by principles that are ruling all conflicts. If there are principles in conflict, that means not to kill civilians, but combatants, and to, I would say, spare lives.
Many of the allegations by both sides appear to be exaggerated. As the saying goes, the first casualty of war is truth. But that is almost beside the point. There are enough real innocent lives being lost. To use them in a propaganda war seems to disrespect the dead, the very people both armies say they are fighting to protect. Stefan Kotsonis, CNN, Belgrade.
If the U.S. retaliates militarily against Libya for the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103, Washington should expect trouble. This from Ahmed Jibril, leader of a terrorist group known as the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine General Command. Jibril says, quote, "We will hit U.S. interests if Libya comes under any attack." He adds, "We didn't interfere when Iraq was attacked, but this time we will not cross our hands and stand watching." Though last week 2 Libyans were indicted, investigators initially believed that Jibril's Syrian-backed group was responsible for the bombing 3 years ago. Jibril today says he'll sue the U.S. government for falsely accusing him of masterminding the bombing. Israel still thinks his group was involved. Israeli television reports officials in that country believe the U.S. is covering up involvement by Jibril's group, perhaps because of Syria's cooperation in the Gulf War. There's skepticism, too, from some families of Flight 103 victims who also believe the Syrians played a role in the bombing over Lockerbie.
French President Francois Mitterrand says Libyan nationals linked to a second bombing must be tracked down and prosecuted. 170 people were killed when a bomb exploded aboard a French jetliner over Niger in 1989. Arrest warrants have been issued. Tripoli denies any involvement.
The U.S. and Iran reportedly are close to finalizing an agreement to compensate Iran for U.S. military equipment that was never delivered. The New York Times reports the equipment was in the U.S. during Iran's 1979 revolution when the American embassy was seized. The paper speculates the settlement could be connected to the release of Western hostages earlier this week. Administration officials have denied any link. And just ahead, Germans confront a brand of violence that many hoped they'd never see again.
Dann komme ich mit Axt und mit Eilen hier an.
If the foreigners return, I'll go after them with an axe.
Okay, blankets.
Blanket.
Bunny.
Bunny.
Donut.
Donut.
What kind of an example is that?
Oh.
Yeah, come on, try these.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal bars. We just get these?
Uh-huh.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain bars have whole grain goodness with real fruit filling, no preservatives or cholesterol.
Good, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain bars can start your morning off right.
We got everything? Baby.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain bars. Start your morning off right.
Being raised the son of a missionary in India, I was taught that drug and alcohol abuse were sins and a matter of willpower. Now, as a medical doctor in my 12th year of recovery, I know that addiction is a disease, a treatable disease.
If your family has pleaded with you to do something about your alcohol or drug problem, call Woodridge for help now. Treatment is Medicare and OHIP approved and is covered by most insurance. Call Woodridge now, 1-800-826-7950.
This man's incredibly close, comfortable shave comes from the Norelco razor. But to see how he got it, we have to go back to when he began shaving. Not just above the skin, but below it. Here, our patented lift and cut system lifts the hair so when it's cut, it can actually drop below skin level without the blades even touching your face. Try it, and you'll keep going back to Norelco for a perfect shave. Norelco, we make close, comfortable.
We're about to prove a point. On the right, a pie wrapped in saran wrap. On the left, Reynolds and Glad. Knowing a bear won't eat what he can't smell, which one holds an odor and freshness better? Saran wrap. Nothing protects food better.
Its mission, the survival of the U.S. government. So secret, few people even know about it. A CNN special assignment examines the doomsday government at 6 and 10 Eastern tonight.
In the U.S., former Ku Klux Klansman David Duke rattled the political establishment recently when he ran for governor of Louisiana. In Europe, there are also rumblings of racial politics. As Europe has emerged from the 40-year deep freeze of the Cold War, old animosities have thawed and surged back to the surface. Among them, ethnic strife, nationalism, and neo-Nazi movements. In much of Europe, skinheads have come to represent not just an expression of youthful rebellion, but a movement of hate and intolerance, a movement fueled by tough economic times and a flood of immigrants from Eastern Europe. 46 years after the defeat of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Holocaust, there is a troubling wave of neo-Nazi and anti-immigrant sentiment. In Germany, there have been more than 400 attacks against immigrants reported over the past 3 months. There were only 19 reported in all of last year. Last month, a Ku Klux Klansman from the U.S. was spotted in Germany at a cross burning, apparently forging ties with German neo-fascists. There have even been anti-Semitic video games.
In West Germany itself, there are computer hate games, such as KZ Manager, how to be an appropriate manager of a concentration camp, and Gas Turks. There are 147 different such games.
As the Nazis swept into Austria in 1938, so has the neo-Nazi movement spilled across the border in the 90s. Earlier this month, the Freedom Party of Jörg Haider, who praises the labor policies of Hitler's Reich, won 23% in Vienna's municipal elections, more than double its showing 4 years ago. A prestigious poll shows that close to a third of Austrians say they dislike immigrants. 1 in 5 say Jews should be fired from their jobs. A distinct minority, but hard to overlook, reflecting dangerous ways of thinking, warns France's foreign minister, thinking that could threaten democracy, he says. Yet France faces a threat of its own. A recent poll there shows almost a third of the country broadly agreeing with the extreme anti-immigrant views of Jean-Marie Le Pen. And over the weekend in Spain, neo-Nazis defied a new ban and rallied in the streets of Madrid. Anti-immigrant sentiment is also apparent in Britain, Belgium, Denmark, and Switzerland. Today, in response, Germany is launching a national anti-racist campaign. The government's new official in charge of immigrant affairs says the urgent goal is to stop the violence. CNN's Doug James examines the problem and the challenge in one German city.
Welcome to Hoyerswerda, Germany. Unless you're from Africa.
We started to experience
violence from Hoyerswerda right from the time that we went to live there.
Or from Armenia.
I go for telephone, they attacked me and broke my teeth. And the last day they attacked me with knife.
These men are in hiding after being forced to flee for their lives from a government-run hostel in Hoyerswerda. It happened on the night of September 22nd, after a week-long siege by neo-Nazis who firebombed their apartments. Neighbors applauded as 230 refugees were bussed out of town.
I was in Hoyerswerda, and I was really shocked to see the hostility, not to say hatred, of people against foreigners. And the word Ausländer was on the tip of everybody's tongues almost every minute. And there was an atmosphere which was really quite like one I've never stepped into in my whole life. I found it terrifying, and the atmosphere really was a pogrom atmosphere. The groundswell of support for racism and even for right-wing extremism in Germany is greater than we hitherto thought.
What happened here is not unique to Hoyerswerda. So far this year, there have been hundreds of similar attacks throughout Germany as a rising tide of nationalism sweeps across the country. Once again, Nazi slogans are the hallmark of some disenchanted German youth who see all those of a different race as the enemy.
I don't have a bandaged hand for nothing. I was operated on because I had fights with niggers. I will never give up. It's either us or the foreigners. Germany for Germans.
Sentiments expressed in countless telegrams and letters to Hoyerswerda City Hall, congratulating the community for getting rid of its foreigners. Local officials who are now concerned about losing outside investment because of the city's tarnished image say the views are those of a minority.
Hoyerswerda has been turned into the scapegoat of the nation.
With the vast strip mining operations at Hoyerswerda now threatened by the post-unification economic downturn in the east, more young people here worry they'll lose their jobs. In Hoyerswerda, the apartments the refugees were forced to abandon are being renovated. They'll be rented to Germans. But the government plans to send more refugees here early next year, continuing its policy of sharing the burden among communities throughout the country. Despite numerous marches and demonstrations by concerned Germans, appeals for tolerance may again be answered by violence.
Kommen Ausländer rein, dann komme ich mit Axt und mit allen hier an.
If the foreigners return, I'll go after them with an axe.
Doug James, CNN, Hoyerswerda, Germany.
A former U.S. ambassador to West Germany and a young German student will discuss this issue of neo-Nazism when the International Hour continues.
Españoles.
CompuServe is the world's largest network of people with personal computers. CompuServe can turn your computer into a limitless source of information and resources that will simplify your work and enrich your life. It combines the power of your computer with the convenience of your telephone to bring you hundreds of online services, like a reference library and international news wires. It helps you decide on investments, make airline reservations, and shop the electronic mall. It connects you with other computer owners and offers games against opponents around the country. Just call 1-800-522-4477 for more information, or to join CompuServe. Just call this number today and get a membership kit for only $39.95 with usage charges as low as 10 cents a minute. CompuServe. You'll never stop finding new ways it can help you.
We have so much to celebrate. Corbel Champagne.
November Super Buy is the GE Miser Value Pack with 4 55, 70, or 95-watt energy-saving Miser bulbs, plus a 3-way bulb. Now just $277 at Century Hardware.
I crave snacks.
But sometimes those calories have to be tabled. No problem. I've got Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. The great taste I love and only 10 little calories. Instead of munching, I enjoy pure chewing satisfaction.
Alarmed by what it views as a resurgence of anti-Semitism, Israel's parliament, the Knesset, is calling on Europe and the U.S. to do more to combat the trend. German Chancellor Helmut Kohl, meanwhile, has written to the American Jewish Committee condemning what he calls the shameless behavior of small groups of neo-Nazis. Well, joining us now to examine what is happening and why, Richard Burt in New York, the former U.S. ambassador to West Germany, and here in Washington, Joachim Ruehl, a 16-year-old German high school student in the United States on a one-year exchange program. Mr. Ambassador, first to you. You saw those reports as they went by, the pictures and the sentiments, surely. You've spoken, as I understand it, with a number of your German colleagues and friends just recently. How serious and how surprising do you find this trend?
Well, I think it is a serious trend, but let me say, Frank, I think it's not only isolated to Germany, as your excellent report demonstrated. I think it's a trend that we're seeing throughout Western Europe. We're focusing on it, of course, in Germany, given the special historical circumstances, but what we're seeing is the emergence of, I think, a long-term strategic phenomenon. By that I mean a collection of very homogeneous cultures and societies like that in Germany, like that in France and other parts of Western Europe, are facing a new era of becoming multicultural. We are going to see population movement from Eastern Europe, that is from the Eastern European countries and the republics that constituted the former Soviet Union. And we are seeing population movement from the South, from North Africa and other third world countries. And it's going to change the very shape of Europe in the 1990s.
Well, if you take that as a premise, Mr. Ambassador, then one would presume that it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I think that's probably right. We've had enough trouble in our own experience being a very diverse, multicultural society. When you recognize that the Europeans are far more homogeneous than we are, I think they will experience real trouble. One other very special factor, of course, in Germany is the fact, as your report pointed out, that they are going through the travail of unifying both East and West Germany, and this is creating, particularly in the East, very difficult economic situations. High unemployment of 30, 40, sometimes 50% and more in some areas. And so there is obviously a great deal of concern when local populations think that, that foreigners are getting special treatment.
All right, let's turn to our German student here. Since most of the skinheads, Joachim Ruehl, are young people,
yes.
You're obviously
yes.
not a skinhead.
Yes, no.
Do you have friends who are?
No, I don't.
Do you know people who are?
No, I don't. I can really say that my area where I live is not that strongly involved in that, which I'm very happy about. But I think it's focused on the big cities and
well, what do you feel as a young German when you see these sorts of pictures?
I feel frightened. I feel bad about it, and I strongly disagree with it. I can just say that I hope that this is not going to get any stronger, and there have to be ways to be found on both sides to limit this.
Fear for your own safety? I mean, if this were to spread?
No. I mean, that on the one hand, you cannot disregard those people, of course, but on the other hand, it is also that if too much attention is focused on them, that is exactly what they want, and that is what they want. I mean, I think most of them are troublemakers who want to gain attention.
Well, they're getting that. We're going to continue our conversation, but first we're going to take a break. Please stay with us.
There's a new pet.
Chia.
Chia Pet, the pottery that grows. It's fun and easy. Soak your chia, spread the seeds, keep it watered, and watch it grow. And now grow a whole collection of fun with Chia teddy bears, puppies, kittens, rams, bulls. There's even a Chia tree to keep your pets company. Chia Pets and Trees, the pottery that grows.
The Chia Pet and Chia Tree are available at Kmart, Walgreens, Rite Aid, and Woolworth. Makes a great gift.
You know what's smart?
this Magnavox 386 notebook computer that fits in your briefcase. But what's really smart is this Magnavox 8mm EasyCam that shoots incredible videos, yet weighs less than 2 pounds. But what's brilliant is this Magnavox 13-inch TV that has a VCR built right into it. But what's really brilliant is this Magnavox 3-inch LCD TV that even has an AM/FM. But what's truly ingenious is this 31-inch stereo TV with a smart window that lets you see what's on other channels and swap the picture.
And we'll be right back after these messages.
You know what's smart?
Oh, not him again.
Go away!
The ingenious products from Magnavox. They're smart, very smart.
From the day I was born, I collected so much stuff. So we stored our stuff in stuff from Rubbermaid. Then we were so unstuffed.
Hey! We need more stuff!
Don't you wish everything was made like Rubbermaid?
And continuing our discussion with Joachim Ruehl, our German exchange student. Joachim, what is the appeal, if there is any, to this neo-Nazi movement in Germany for young people?
Well, I think they see a solution in it to get rid of their anger, their own depression because of socioeconomic problems in finding a job, and also seeing that many of those foreigners really get in and get jobs, and all this adds up together with the reunification, which many of those people really didn't want, were against, because they saw that economic problems would result in that, and so it is those people who make their anger.
Ambassador Burt, many of these people that we're talking about come from the old East Germany, don't they?
That's right. And I think that's a very important point, Frank, because I think we forget that those people have not lived under anything resembling democracy since at least 1933. So we're talking about 60 years of experience under Nazi rule and then under communist rule. Now, your young student, Joachim, I'm sure comes from what we used to call West Germany. There, the Germans have worked very hard to instill in the new young generation of Germans a real respect and support for democratic institutions. In fact, when I was in Germany, I was quite struck by the degree to which the sense of diversity, pluralism, and democracy were alive in Germany. But I don't think that exists in East Germany, and that's one of the problems.
Let me leap in there, because we're almost out of time,
Sure.
Ambassador, though, and ask you in that regard, then, what do you think can be done to counter this trend?
I think that there's no alternative but for Chancellor Kohl and his government to stand up to this. And I think that they have to respect their own law, which is a law which opens their country to political asylums, people seeking political asylum. That doesn't mean they have to take every single immigrant into the country, but they have to be prepared to keep an open immigration policy. It'd be a tragedy if they change that. And secondly, they have to use their very competent security and police forces to make sure that this kind of violence doesn't happen. They know better than anybody that while these kinds of things are happening in other countries, that we, the international community, are going to focus on Germany, given their very special and very sad and regrettable history in this area.
Ambassador Richard Burt, thank you very much for your time. Joachim Ruehl, thanks for your insight.
Yes,
appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
We'll continue. Catherine?
Thanks, Frank. And coming up on CNN World Report, from Belgrade Television, a visit to devastated Vukovar, Yugoslavia.
We just returned from Europe, where we experienced the luxury of sleeping beneath a goose-down comforter. Well, we headed straight to a Scandia down shop. They have the finest goose-down comforters, a staff that understands sleeping comfort, and their exclusive Scandia down shop lifetime warranty. You spend a third of your life in bed. Come feel the Scandia difference.
For the Scandia down shop nearest you, call 1-800-542-1200.
International Hour continues, followed by Early Prime after this local commercial break. Next on CNN.
Victims of greed, prized for their beauty, and in danger of disappearing forever. We are not helpless bystanders. There is something we can do.
I'm Jane Fonda. Join me for a World of Audubon special, Mysterious Elephants of the Congo, a TBS exclusive.
10 o'clock Eastern, Sunday night on TBS.
Look closely. This is a man saying Happy Thanksgiving to his wife. And save me a drumstick. This is Cousin Susan saying, don't sit me next to Aunt Ethel again. Flowers have a way with words, and we have a way with flowers. We're 1-800-FLOWERS. Our name is our number. Call us anytime to deliver flowers anywhere to anyone in a matter of hours, guaranteed. So if you can't find the right words this Thanksgiving, we'll help you find the right flowers. Call 1-800-FLOWERS, the world's neighborhood florist.
This is CNN.
The world's richest democracies are offering the Soviets help in making it through the hard winter ahead. The Group of Seven agreed today to allow Soviets to put off repaying their more than $3.5 billion debt payment. The G7 is also offering 8 Soviet republics a $1 billion loan. CNN's Steve Hurst reports.
Soviet industrial production will be down 7% by year's end. Agricultural output will be off 9%. The national income as a whole will fall 15%. The elderly on fixed incomes are increasingly in the streets begging for handouts, and there are concerns of widespread hunger and food riots as the winter deepens. In St. Petersburg, the mayor has declared all food will be rationed starting December 15th. The G7 nations, after 4 difficult days of negotiations, have agreed to work out deferment of $3.6 billion of Soviet debt and to issue a new loan of $1 billion.
The importance of the accomplishment is that it provides them breathing space and allows them to continue to qualify for external credit around the world.
The largesse of the G7, which includes the United States, comes a day after the Bush administration announced a unilateral grant of $1.5 billion in food aid, primarily to finance grain sales to feed cattle. Official Moscow expressed gratitude.
We took note with satisfaction the decision of the White House to render assistance support to the Soviet Union during this coming winter.
The Soviet people seemed happy for the help, unhappy with the prospects of further indebtedness.
On the one hand, it's great, but on the other hand, our children and grandchildren will now have a hard time paying for all of this, and that's shameful.
Some were embarrassed.
To be honest, I am ashamed. I'm very uncomfortable with this.
Ashamed or not, the Soviet people have no choice. Inflation is racing ahead of wage increases. The cost of a chicken on the market has topped 100 rubles, a third of the average monthly wage. The Treasury literally can't even print enough money to meet payroll. The Kremlin always prided itself in paying its debts on time. Now that pride has been traded for the beggar's cup. Unprecedented aid has been given. But how long will the wealthy be willing, perhaps more to the point, able, to bail the Soviets out? Steve Hurst, CNN, Moscow.
To check the latest financial news from around the world, and here's CNN's Bill Hartley live at the New York Stock Exchange. Bill?
Thanks, Frank. Friday's 120-point sell-off on Wall Street, not forgotten on world financial markets today. U.S. stocks are struggling to hold on to an earlier 14-point rally. Strong biotech issues lending some support. But right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up a bare 6 points. It stands at 2936. Volume is heavy today, 176 million shares changing hands so far. Advancers beating out decliners by an 8-7 margin. On the broader and secondary markets, all 4 key indexes also showing gains. Coca-Cola is the focus of some interest here at the New York Stock Exchange. It's up 1 7/8 at 68 3/8. Several analysts repeating buy ratings because of the company's global expansion plans and strong growth expectations. General Motors, one of the most active issues. It is up a quarter at 30 7/8. Auto stocks are higher across the board today. That's because of President Bush's proposal to give a tax credit on purchases of domestic-made cars. But bond traders are not happy with the president's idea. Prices are sharply lower. Traders say tax cuts would lead to higher inflation. The Treasury 30-year benchmark issued down 22/32, the yield up at 7.95%. U.S. dollars up 3/4 of a cent on the British pound, up slightly against the German mark, but it's down 1/4 of a yen on the Japanese currency. The world's largest computer maker taking a minority stake in France's Dassault Systems. Dassault will work on IBM software operations. IBM stock is up an eighth at 95 5/8. In international stock market trading, stocks in both Paris and Frankfurt ended the day with slight changes. But in London, stocks were lower for the fourth time in 5 sessions. The Financial Times 100 share index closed down more than 9 at 2,463. That index had been off 19 earlier. In Tokyo, the Nikkei average extending a string of losses. It closed 22 points lower, the 7th straight loss. Join us tonight for Moneyline with Lou Dobbs. We'll take a look at the Maxwell Media empire and the tough decisions that lie ahead for its new leaders. That's tonight at 7 and 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Right now, the Dow up 4.5 points. And that's the latest in business news. I'm Bill Hartley, reporting live from the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks, Bill. Well, just ahead on CNN World Report, a live interview from Bonn with the German perspective on the visit of Russian President Boris Yeltsin.
This stock market update is brought to you by Acura Automobiles. Experience precision-crafted performance.
It's a fast-paced, get in, get out, gotta go world we live in. So, why not sit back and enjoy the ride in a luxury performance car designed to keep up with it? The 5-cylinder, 20-valve Acura Vigor.
More valuable than most, this umbrella. 50% of the Fortune 500 carry it for their insurance and investment needs. Open in case you want quality and service the traveler's way. You're better off under the umbrella.
Ricola, the all-natural herb cough drop imported from Switzerland. Ricola has been soothing throats and relieving coughs naturally for over 60 years.
In nomine Patris.
Quebec, 1634. What happens when the ambitions of the old world come face to face with the mysticism and savagery of the new? From Bruce Beresford, director of Driving Miss Daisy and Tender Mercies, Black Robe, rated R. Now at select theaters, starts Friday at a theater near you.
Nothing on television gives you a wider view or a closer one. Uncut, uncensored. Above all, a window on what sparks the human spirit. CNN World Report, 3 p.m. Eastern, Sunday.
And here's Lou Waters with a preview of what's coming up on Early Prime. Lou, what have you got?
Right, Frank. President Bush has signed the new civil rights bill into law, but he's getting some flack about something he did not say at the signing ceremony today in the Rose Garden. We'll talk about that with the Speaker of the House, Tom Foley. It appears there's some new hope for women who suffer bone problems after menopause. And we'll look into the beliefs and practices of a religious group accused of letting some of its members die unnecessarily. Early Prime in about 22 minutes or so. Join us.
Welcome to CNN World Report, where we bring you news as reported by broadcasters around the globe from their perspective. Russian President Boris Yeltsin is in Germany for talks about Germany's past and Russia's future. To discuss Yeltsin's visit, we have with us from Bonn, Deutsche Welle's Heinz Pianka. Welcome.
Hello, Catherine.
I understand.
So,
Boris Yeltsin arrived today for a 3-day visit to Bonn. It's his first official visit that he pays abroad after the attempted coup d'etat in Moscow. And immediately when this coup d'etat when the outcome was not yet clear, Helmut Kohl, Germany's chancellor, had invited Boris Yeltsin. So Yeltsin will stay here for 3 days. He has met the chancellor today, he has met opposition leaders, and tomorrow he will meet German President Richard von Weizsäcker and industrialists in Cologne. And Saturday, the last day of his visit, he's due to go to the former Eastern Germany to pay a visit to the headquarters of the Soviet troops which are still based in Germany. One of the most important topics of this visit, which will be discussed in the talks with political leaders, is of course the question of what happens to Erich Honecker, the former East German head of state, who is still in Moscow. He had been illegally brought to Moscow from Berlin. And with me here in the studio is Professor Karl Kaiser. He is director of the Research Institute of the German Society for Foreign Policy. Professor Kaiser, there seems to be the impression that Yeltsin wants to get rid of the Honecker problem as soon as possible.
Well, in the grand terms of evolution between Russia and Germany, it's a minor problem, considering all the other problems, but for the Germans it's an important problem. After all, the East German communist regime lasted 40 years. There was a tremendous amount of repression. Many people died, particularly those who tried to escape across the wall. And it is totally unacceptable that the man who was at the top of that communist state remains in Moscow and isn't put to trial, and therefore it's a tremendously important question for the Germans.
What about getting around the dilemma of bringing him back, Professor?
Well, at the moment, it's up to Gorbachev to decide and not to Yeltsin, and he said so here in Bonn today. Needless to say, the Germans would like to have him back and put on trial. But in the context of the overall problems, nevertheless, it is not the most important question between Russia and Germany. And for that reason, I presume one has to equip oneself with a certain amount of patience in this matter.
For Yeltsin himself, the most important question certainly will be whether he leaves Bonn with empty pockets or not. The question is there whether the Germans are still able to satisfy his economic needs. But Germany has already paid a lot to the former Soviet Union. What can Germany do and pay for the Russian state now?
Well, I think the most important question is the following. Yeltsin is the main inheritor of the Soviet Union. It is the largest part of the Soviet Union. The Treaty of Cooperation that was concluded on the occasion of the unification of Germany between Germany and the Soviet Union was concluded with the Soviet Union, which is now falling apart. And it is Russia which will play the most important role in the future. So he will become the main partner in the economic relationship between Germany and what used to be the Soviet Union. So far, Germany has given 53% of the entire Western aid to Russia and to the Soviet Union. And there is great willingness to go on. And I presume Mr. Yeltsin will leave with further promises because Germany is profoundly committed to this course.
Professor, Germany has its own economic problems. It's paying such an enormous share of the aid to the Soviet Union. Does it resent at all the amount of aid coming from other sources, other countries?
Well, Germany would like to see more, and it regards this matter as not the final answer, that it pays half of the entire aid and to Soviet Union and a third to all of Eastern Europe. In particular, for the following reason, we happen to believe that while we are particularly affected if things go wrong there, that applies to all of the West. If there is a destabilization in the Soviet Union, it will affect all of the West, particularly if it takes the form of civil war with nuclear weapons present. Therefore, the Germans hope that in particular the United States and Japan come in with a major program of support for the reformers in the Soviet Union.
And besides that, of course, there was another problem that has been discussed today between Yeltsin and Helmut Kohl, and that's the problem of the ethnic Germans living in the Soviet Union. There are about 3 million of them who had their own autonomous state in the Volga region, but they have been transferred by Stalin to the Kazakhstan area that was at the outbreak of World War II. Now those Germans want to come back to either Germany or to get their own Volga Republic, an autonomous Volga Republic again. And this is a problem which, of course, raises questions also that the Soviets who are living in this Volga area, most of them don't want to get the Germans back into this area. But today, an agreement has been signed that both sides, Germany and Russia, will further steps to make Germans who want to go back to this Volga area to settle them there. But there are numerous of them who still want to go to Germany, but this is, of course, combined with a lot of problems of housing here and of getting used to live in a highly industrialized country, whereas they have been used to live until now in a mostly agricultural area. And they still have a picture, an image of Germany which is outdated, and they are sometimes surprised, get a real cultural shock when they come here to Germany and see a completely different Germany as from what they are used to have.
Heinz, let me ask you a question. Helmut Kohl, friends of Gorbachev, the German people seem to have warmly received Mikhail Gorbachev. How are they going to respond to Boris Yeltsin?
It's quite different. Of course, Boris Yeltsin was received today in Bonn with all the honors that are due to a head of state. But there haven't been those standing ovations that we have seen when Gorbachev came here for his first visit in 1989, for his second visit then 1990, shortly after Germany's reunification. But the Germans are still a little bit hesitant. They have to find a kind of equilibrium between the new power center in Moscow, concentrated in the person of Boris Yeltsin, and they still want to maintain also their traditional and good relations to Mikhail Gorbachev, besides the fact that there are also these personal relationships and the good personal relationships, if not to say friendship, between Helmut Kohl and Gorbachev, and, for instance, between Shevardnadze and Germany's Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher.
Heinz, Pianka with Deutsche Welle, thank you very much for joining us on the International Hour, and Professor Karl Kaiser, thank you, sir, as well. And still to come in our World Report segment, a look at the war in Yugoslavia. The fall of Vukovar triggers an exodus from the devastated city. Stay with us.
For those of you who have been reluctant to wear a hearing aid, Miracle Ear has more great news. If you have trouble hearing in noisy situations, the exciting Miracle Ear Clarifier may be your answer. The Clarifier features a special filter that automatically reduces background noise.
In a restaurant situation, it picks up the noises I want to hear, but the other noises are just moved off into the background.
If you or someone you know thinks they may be suffering from hearing loss, call Miracle Ear at this number and receive helpful information.
It really makes a lot of difference in your way of hearing and in your way of life.
Call this number. Miracle Ear will send you a booklet on better hearing, plus a coupon for a free hearing test. Call today. Learn about all the good news from Miracle Ear.
A lot of people don't even know you got it, especially the one I got, the design that I got.
Call this number. Find out if Miracle Ear can help you.
When it comes to mice, a lot of people are in the dark. They just don't know that for every mouse you see, there may be 15 or 20 that you don't see, or that mice eat in many different places. A very unhealthy situation. Unless you put Decon Mouseproof in the many places mice feed, like behind the refrigerator, in back of the cupboard, and behind the washer, so the mice will find it faster and end your problem faster. Decon Mouseproof gets mice right where they live.
Campbell's heard your healthy request.
Low fat.
Less salt.
But lots of taste.
Here's our answer. New Campbell's Healthy Request ready-to-serve soups. All the great taste you want without some things you don't. New Campbell's Healthy Request. And healthy.
The horror of the battle over Vukovar in Yugoslavia is just coming to light as refugees stream out of the devastated town. The Yugoslav army is in control, but few citizens are remaining in Vukovar. We have two reports. The first from the Serbian perspective from JRT TV Belgrade.
Family reunion after almost 3 months. This is how mother met her son, soldier, in center of Vukovar, in moment when federal army units are doing everything they possibly can to assist those citizens who survived in unhuman conditions. More than 60 days, inhabitants of Vukovar lived under terror of Croatian fascist forces. Unfortunately, many didn't live long enough to welcome their liberators. Croatian forces, feeling that an end is near, retreating towards the center of town, killed everything in sight. Mass graves similar to this one could be found in many parts of Vukovar. In Vukovar City Hospital, patients are waiting for Federal Army to transport them to a safer place. While they were under Croatian terror, around 30 babies were born in this hospital. In order to keep them alive, doctors were giving them their own blood. Detailed investigation of all crimes committed by Croatian fascist forces in Vukovar shall require a longer period of time. City itself almost doesn't exist anymore. Federal Army shall allow all citizens freedom to go wherever they like. Last Tuesday, Special Envoy of UN General Secretary, Mr. Cyrus Vance, visited Vukovar. Mr. Vance was traveling with Special Army vehicle. He visited Army barrack, which was under heavy and constant Croatian fascist fire for more than 2 months. He also talked with survived citizens of Vukovar. Vukovar is the ghost town, first town in 20th century which paid high price for fascist revival in Croatia. This is Miodrag Popovic, RTV Belgrade, for CNN World Report.
A huge convoy of Croatian refugees from Vukovar is creeping towards safe areas of Croatia as the fighting continues. For the Croatian perspective on the fall of Vukovar and the progress of the war, we have a report from TV Croatia.
The tragedy of Vukovar is just another reminder for the world community of what is going on in Croatia. As Cyrus Vance put it, of biggest concern are the homeless and wounded in Vukovar, people who for days and months have lived in shelters left to the mercy of the destiny. Many a child has gotten gray hair because of the disaster they witnessed. Croatian refugees number approximately 500,000. Many of these people do not have a place to go now. Dubrovnik, the medieval Adriatic town, has been under siege for more than a month. Hundreds of refugees have left the town by now. Many refugees from Dubrovnik, Osijek, Vinkovci, Vukovar, Zadar and Split and other locations in Croatia attacked by the Serbian-led army found shelter in Croatian hotels, Slovenian families and homes and families abroad. At the threshold of the 21st century, Europe is facing one of the worst exodus in the world. Isn't it time to stop the war in Croatia? Željka Bojić, Croatian TV, Zagreb, for CNN World Report.
And that concludes today's CNN World Report segment.
UN officials say Iraq is likely to agree to extend a relief program now underway in the country. UN envoy Prince Aga Khan is trying to soothe Iraqi fears that some relief workers are U.S. spies. In northern Iraq, fears are growing that a new and vicious war may yet erupt. Terry Lloyd reports.
With the prospect of all-out war with Iraq, 150,000 Peshmerga guerrilla fighters have moved into hideouts in the Kurdistan mountains where they are preparing for battle. It's a ragtag army made up from young and old, businessmen and refugees, but they have one common bond, a hatred for Saddam Hussein, who is killing their families and forcing thousands of other Kurds to flee towns and cities as his own army tightens its grip on the country. The battle for the key city of Suleimania went on for months. It ended a few weeks ago with victory for the Kurds, but Baghdad has warned it wants it back. Now scores of Peshmerga guerrillas are based in the hills above, ready to fight in the terrain they know best, which gives them some chance of resisting the might of the Iraqis.
Our Peshmerga are very much experienced in the so-called popular war, which mainly depend on the light arms and small units, and this popular war has its own laws and tactics of the war.
Only now have the Kurds been able to reveal the extent of the atrocities during Iraqi rule of Suleimania. They took us to the remains of the secret police headquarters and into the notorious torture block where the walls still record a stark reminder of the victims' suffering. This Iraqi video showing the interrogation of a Kurd who'd already been drugged was taken in here. Headmaster Jamal Amen shared a cell with that man. He took us to where he was imprisoned for 9 months, accused of being a Kurdish resistance leader. He described the terrible conditions and the horrific secrets of the hanging room, where his hands would be tied behind his back and then used to suspend him from ceiling hooks. To add to his agony, electric shocks would be put through his body.
Sometimes, besides all this, some of the guards were hanging themselves on your body this way. They were swinging so as you would feel more pain.
Had he confessed, this would have been his fate, a firing squad. Yet the Peshmerga guerrillas and their leaders are prepared for the consequences as they steel themselves for a war they now believe is inevitable. Terry Lloyd, ITN, in Iraqi Kurdistan.
And now we'll take a look at forecast temperatures for some cities around the world.
Any angle, it feels as refreshing as it looks. A new shower massage from Teledyne Waterpick.
There's a new pet.
Chia.
Chia Pet, the pottery that grows. It's fun and easy. Soak your chia, spread the seeds, keep it watered, and watch it grow. And now grow a whole collection of fun with chia teddy bears, puppies, kittens, rams, bulls. There's even a chia tree to keep your pets company. Chia Pets and Trees, the pottery that grows.
The Chia Pet and Chia Tree are available at Kmart, Walgreens, Eckerd, and Thrifty. Makes a great gift.
Have you tried Folgers Coffee Singles?
One coffee
In its own filter.
Singular sensation, every single cup you brew.
It's like brewing a whole pot. One cup at a time.
Singular sensation, fresh brewed morning for you.
There's ground roast in here.
In its own filter.
Folgers, singular sensation, just for one.
Folgers Coffee Singles. One sensational way to wake up.
Tomorrow on CNN, we'll show you some of this year's award-winning international commercials.
Welcome to DHL. Please enter the service you require. Please enter the destination code.
Package for Africa.
And we'll speak with a man who knows what it takes to make a top-notch commercial in any country. That's tomorrow morning on World Day, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Well, that's our report from CNN Center in Atlanta. I'm Catherine Crier.
And I'm Frank Sesno, looking forward to tomorrow. Early Prime is coming up. Here with a look ahead is Lou Waters. Lou?
Okay, Frank. Coming up for our U.S. viewers, storm clouds brew over the White House and an aborted plan to torpedo affirmative action programs. We'll have a reaction from Speaker of the House, Tom Foley. What was a dream of opportunity becomes a daily test of survival for Central American immigrants in the City of Angels. And guess what's back? After slow going during the late 80s, denim is on the fast track back. That story, too, on Early Prime. Join Cheryl Atkinson and me next here on CNN.
Coming up, Early Prime, followed by Showbiz Today, after a word from your local cable system, here on CNN.
Buy a base Dodge Dakota.
And you can dress it up inside and out with our special LE package for no extra charge. Order air conditioning too, and you can get our new 180 horsepower Magnum V6, also at no extra charge. And now get $750 cash back too. Dodge Dakota.
See Stu Hansen's Dodge City under the Stars and Stripes at Ingersoll at Harding Road in Des Moines.
Father?
Yes, sister?
I have a confession.
Yes?
Remember the fax machine I bought from Divine Office Systems?
Yes?
Well, I also bought a typewriter, a computer, a copier, and a laser printer.
All that from one company?
Yes, Father.
What was the name of this company again?
Divine Office Systems.
Wise choice.
Get ready for Ice Capades, presented by Legs Sheer Energy. World-class figure skating is coming to Vets Auditorium Wednesday, November 27th through Sunday, the 1st of December. Enter Hanna-Barbera's World of Fun and Excitement on ice with a Heritage Cablevision Ice Hot $2 off ticket offer. It's a hot deal for young people and seniors.
It's hot.
See Ice Capades, presented by Legs Sheer Energy, coming to Vets Auditorium. Don't miss this family favorite or your Ice Hot ticket offer from Heritage Cablevision.
Without your seatbelt on, 'cause if you do, you get the summertime blues.